So building materials are based on what's available locally. For most of the world actually uses wood or brick, and the reason why is because it's easy to manipulate. You can get various sizes out of it. You just cut it and do that kind of thing. But it really does, vary regionally. If you think about the Southwest, you see a lot more adobe brick houses and things like that because there's just not much wood out there. Mr. Wright was talking about the Plains Indians just a second ago, and there's nothing out there. What are you going to use? Use the buffalo, right? Use the skin and create a teepee. Later, when Europeans went across and they were on the plains, they actually cut out big chunks of sod, like grass, and they created sod houses and things like that. So so your environment and what's locally available is going to determine what you make your house out of, okay? All right, so here's an example of the environmental influences and how it influences style. So in colder places, this is in Estonia, right? If you don't know where it is, go to your map, look it up, okay? It's in Europe, right? But Estonia is very cold, lots of snow, and so they have the sloped roofs so that the snow will fall off the roofs. Some of you who have cabins in Bear Valley and things like that, they have the sloped roofs as well, and it becomes sort of like a style. So even here in Lodi, sometimes I think there's a place over on Edgewood, or there used to be, that had this sort of roof, like a V-shaped roof. It doesn't snow in Lodi, but they really like that style, so it kind of it came over, came here to Lodi. Here is Oman, and you can see obviously from the sand it's very warm, okay? So they have this thatched roof, which allows a lot of breeze to blow through there, keep things cool. All right, this is how different belief systems can impact housing or housing style. So the Laotians, if you look at the way that their houses are set up, they're perpendicular to the river, I think this is a road, and this is maybe a road right here. And everything looks very similar to what you see in the West. But if you look really closely, you can see their beds and their little heads there, okay? And if you look at this house and that house, you'll notice that the heads are facing each other. Well, in Asian culture, the head is the center of spirituality, okay? It is the highest part of the body. And the feet that are considered dirty and muddy and low. And so you would never have your bed facing someone else if head to foot. That would be a sign of disrespect. Over here in Thailand, you can see it looks kind of similar, but if you look really close, you notice that the houses are not perpendicular to the road. They're not perpendicular to the river. And part of that is because of the belief that evil spirits travel in straight lines. So if you put your house just at a little bit, the evil spirit's gonna bump right into that thing, okay? Can't have that, right? Some other examples of belief systems impacting style. Mr. Wright and I have talked about in Catholic homes, early homes, they would have a little alcove. There would be a candle. You could walk by. You could say the rosary. As you're on your way out to work, coming home. That would be another example. Some places have sacred spaces. Like I visited Japan, and they had an entire room that is just rice mat floors and no electronics allowed in there, and it was just for meditation. Okay? So that's how, just different examples of how belief systems can impact housing styles.
Okay, so as Mr. Hillstrom was talking about, Dr. Graham's house on Edgewood is that A-frame. Dr. Graham was a big-time skier. He was actually an official at the 1960s Olympics in Squaw Valley, and he loved everything about the mountains, so he built the house that way. And what you'll notice is people up in New England, where they have a lot more severe weather, their houses are built more sturdier, and that style came out. And we even see some of that in Lodi. You can see a New England style house, and a lot of them are over in the Hutchins Street Square area. Okay, Mid-Atlantic, less severe weather. They're still built well, all right? And this is going to come out west. And the one thing that I really notice is when I'm back there is I see the decorative star in front of the house, and I'll see those on people's porches in Lodi, and I'll ask the people, oh, where did your family come from? You have a star on your porch. And the first thing they say is, we're not Jewish. And I go, no, I didn't think that. It's a Midwestern thing. Do you know where your family came from? They're like, well, I don't know, I just like the star. Okay. And then down here, you're going to need much higher ceilings to deal with the heat. All right, these Southern colonial houses. You can see Dr. Sutter's house on Edgewood with the big white columns. All right, that's a Southern colonial. You'd want very high ceilings for that. So there was a practical reason of why they built their houses, and then they just traveled west with us as Americans migrated out here. Okay, all right. We're going to go right to the slides here, if that's okay, because we're going to talk about all of these. Okay, all right. Television ownership. In the 1950s, hopefully you guys saw Back to the Future, where Marty goes back to 1954, and they have one television set with the rabbit ears. I know when we came to Lodi in the 1960s, we had 3 channels, and then we were very excited when PBS came around. Channel 6, we had 3, 10, 13. Then Channel 6 came around, PBS, and we were excited, but I was too old for Sesame Street, so I missed all of that. We had Captain Mitch when I was little. And then Channel 40 came in. We had 5 channels, all right? And you can see how, in the 1950s, it was the U.S. It's going to start coming into Great Britain, Germany, Russia, Japan. We actually had Japanese shows like Ultraman, and then they would dub them in English. But television is growing in these parallel universes in different parts of the world, because there's just television technology. You can see how much it's spread by the 1970s, and then by 2005. And then the fascinating thing is television is very different now. More people are watching Netflix during this lockdown than anything else. Even I'm of the television age, and I got to be honest, I'm not watching television anymore. I might watch a movie on Netflix. You guys are really into shorter things, so it's interesting how things, evolve and change. Okay. All right.
That's 32 million TVs in the United States in 1954. Okay, sorry, but what you can see is that number grows 1970, and then 2005. The number of TVs is growing. Okay, my dad talked about, and I think Mr. Wright was just talking about, in the 1950s, the richest family on the block would own a TV, and this TV weighed like 200 pounds. Okay, it took like 2-3 full-grown men, okay, to transport the television. But that one wealthy family, okay, what were they? Their last name was the Joneses, I think. The Joneses had that television, and you would go down, you get invited down, you watch the Ed Sullivan Show, and you go back home. Well, at some point in time, my dad's dad was like, hey, we got to keep up with the Joneses, right? And so they'd save their money, and they would try to purchase the television, okay? So the big thing here, though, is this one down here, global diffusion. So you can see U.S. share of world's TVs, and now we're in percentages. Okay, and I feel better. So here you can see 86% of the world's TVs are in the United States. Uh-oh, what's happening? It's shrinking. So now there's 25% of the world's TVs. Now in 2005, only 16%. Well, how do you make sense of that? Well, if you know population, this makes perfect sense, right? Because where is the majority of the world's population? In less developed countries, maybe in Asia, okay? And as products become less expensive, lighter, cheaper, and as countries have more expendable income, they're purchasing more televisions. Here, those countries, they may not have access to electricity. What's happening though? 1970, 2005, they're starting to gain access to electricity and things like that, okay? Are we good on time?
5 minutes left.
Cool, okay. All right, now this one is talking about the diffusion of the internet. I remember this thing called the World Wide Web. When my wife and I were dating, she was working on a thing called a website. It was gonna like revolutionize the world, and it did. So I married up, right? So what we're looking at here is essentially the pattern of diffusion, right? How is the internet diffusing? And you can see in 1995, most of the internet users in the United States. By 2000, same sort of thing. okay? And it says internet users per 1,000, okay? And 300 and above is the green, okay? Now what happens, the funny thing here is if you compare that last slide and this slide, the internet, it diffuses much faster, much quicker, okay? Why? Well, there's a lot of development that's already taken place, right? By 1995, okay? People have a lot more access to electricity. There's a lot more expendable income in the world. And so you're not building that infrastructural piece, right? You're not having to, put telephone wires up. You're not having to recreate, channels, broadcast channels and things like that, okay? This one's showing us diffusion of the internet as well, and same kind of thing. You can see, the number of users in the United States is going up, but then the percentage of the world's the global diffusion is actually shrinking, right, as it spreads. Now, an interesting thing is taking place in some developing countries where they're doing this thing called leapfrogging, okay, and they're actually bypassing, some of them might bypass television altogether. I mean, you can watch television on your phone. How many of you watch television on your phones? Okay, so why would we need to? If I'm a an African country, maybe very poor, why would I spend millions, maybe billions of dollars, creating telephone poles and a whole electrical grid system when I can just use a phone? Right? And I can get the same kind of service there.
Yes, 2009, you can see Facebook was the biggest. And a lot of these others, I mean, do you even recognize Twitter? Okay, Zing, if you guys remember that? Friendster? I don't remember Friendster. Okay. But you can see where Facebook is in 2009.
MySpace.
Yeah, we got a MySpace?
No, it should be.
Oh, no, I don't see MySpace.
It's old school.
Okay. All right, 2014, look at Facebook through the world. And in 2014, people your age were still using Facebook. Okay, I know, all right, it sounds shocking, but I don't see TikTok, I don't even see Vine, all right, it's how fast these things come along. But, we got Twitter, and Twitter is big over here in Japan in 2014, okay? Is Instagram even on here? I don't even see Instagram, okay? And the reality is, you guys, when your parents invade something, you guys abandon it and move on to the next technology, okay? Or it could get bought out. Microsoft or Google or Facebook could buy them out. All right, here you can see Twitter let's just go with these percentage down here. 51% of the world's users are American, and then it drops down. And same thing with Facebook here. The percentage of the world's user American, and then 2014. And my dad would see this as a zero-sum game. He goes, we're losing. Well, it's not that we're losing. It's like we're only 1/5 of the world's population. But as the rest of the world becomes like us, I would say, Dad, they're buying American products. They're buying American ideas. This is good. And he'd go like, whatever, shut up. And then he would call me Mr. Dumas, where the B was silent in the middle. Okay, but my dad saw everything as a zero-sum game. He saw this as a losing. This is winning. All right, we're selling this to the world and they're using American stuff.